Hello, folks, and welcome to Got Your Back on the road for the Stanley Cup Finals in Tampa Bay, Florida. It's brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Nobody puts in wood windows or siding anymore, so we ask you, why would you build a wood fence or deck? You're just going to end up staining and painting and staining and painting. You might as well do it once with high-quality, maintenance-free vinyl, and my brothers can get that done for you. Call Rick in Edmonton or Rob in Calgary at DLR Vinyl Products. DLR Vinyl Products, all over my backyard. I absolutely love them. We'll talk about a star-studded cast for today's podcast. From Edmonton, our boy Jason Strudwick, and from between the benches, Ray Ferraro. Ray, your first time on Got Your Back, buddy. Welcome.
Thank you. I see you got the same lamp in your room. It looks like we're wearing the same T-shirt. Yeah. I don't know if I should be proud of either of those things. Struddy's got the same shirt on he's had on for 6 weeks, so it really.
Yeah. Well, don't listen, Ray. Don't be nervous. I know you've worked with some pretty big guys in the past, but this is probably a little intimidating. But just speak your voice. We want to hear what you think, and let it flow. You're pretty close to the action there on the bench, so we expect some pretty good insight, buddy.
Yeah, Ray really needs to be told.
Yeah. I understand this. I see where this is going, Ryan.
Hey, how do you do, so you do a podcast with Dregs, right? I got to understand how you do this, Ray, because Struds and I, we're tight. The amount of chirping on our podcast is annoying and insulting, frankly, at times. I can't imagine doing a regular podcast with Darren Dreger. He comes on mine and absolutely butchers me. How do you keep him in line? Because he's nicer to you on your podcast than he is on mine.
Well, we don't have time because we're busy either ripping you or Duffy most of the time. So there's really not. Now, there is a segment of time where I'll maybe perhaps make fun of Dregs' something or other. He's got that dog that walks in and out of the shot all the time. Tiny's 50 pounds, but we have had fun at each other's expense. Yours too. I mean, I would say one of TSN's greatest moments, Struddy, was Ryan pumped for his big Sports Center hit with Dregs and I, and super cameraman Dave Parker's lugging this gear through Petersburg, and it's 500 degrees and he's getting the setup.
This story came out quickly. This took you less than 2 minutes to get to this story.
And because it's one of my favorites. And so as we're there, and you, as you guys and your listeners and followers know, Dregs can be a pain in the ass. And nobody digs in harder than Dregs, quietly though. So as we're walking there, he says to Ryan, do you have a little tidbit to open the hit with? Duffy would always have something. So right away, Ryan's scrolling through his phone and he's going to come up with something. And we're in front of the Hermitage Museum, one of the great museums in the world.
St. Petersburg, Russia, right?
Yeah. It's just a beautiful place. And there are collections of the world's greatest artists in this Hermitage Museum, which is enormous. One of the biggest facilities you could imagine. And so Ryan's like, hey, welcome to the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, Russia, one of the biggest collections of paint in the world. Paint. It's a right away, Dreger's like, is this a Sherman-Williams paint store? This hit should have taken us 3 minutes. It took us, Ryan, how long were we there?
God. Well, I mean, at least the next 3 takes, we tried to get through with a straight face, and you idiots kept you just couldn't handle it. You just kept bursting out laughing. I don't know. You got to think of something intelligent.
Yeah. You were there. You had it. And it just, you didn't land the plane. And then Parker's pouring buckets of sweat, and there's somebody walking into the background. It was a mess. It was honestly one of my favorite hits we've ever done.
Yeah, not my finest moment. I was trying to channel my inner James Duthie. I'm like, I got the big boys. I got the big boys on the panel today. I'm going to think of something clever. And Struds, you know me well enough to know when I try and be clever, it doesn't go well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you got to keep it simple. I'm in the same lane. I'm witty, sure, good looking, but we got to keep it simple. We got to know what we're all about, right?
Off the glass and out, boys. Off the glass and out.
Off the glass and out. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, we got a great game last night that we got to get to here. So time for the breakdown brought to you by Park Mazda, where the newly redesigned 2022 CX-5 has arrived. You can check out the brand new all-wheel drive sport design trim with its turbocharged engine and see the available colors and trims in stock at parkmazda.ca. Ray, you have your own podcast. You do ad reads. How did I do, man?
That was smooth. That was really smooth. Yeah. I will say our taped ads that get on our pod are generally not one taken out. We're kind of kicking the ball around there a little bit.
Good. Okay, well, listen, guys, I don't know where you want to start about last night. Ray, you were down there. You were up close and personal to it. You know, I was one of those ones that coming out of game two thought, I just don't see a way. I don't see a way for these guys to break through. It was just that dominant. But Pierre LeBrun was telling me the whole time, don't underestimate these guys. Like, don't underestimate these guys. Pierre was right. That was a really impressive bounce back performance, Ray, without Braden Point on top of it.
Yeah, it's funny though. I mean, there's no way to not love Braden Point as a player, but at his current health, he was almost a detriment to Tampa because he can't play. He can't move the way he needs to. I felt bad for him, man. He's out there and he's doing the best he can. And he's not a half a stride slow. He was like a full stride slow. And that's 5 or 7 feet all over the place. And when they took him out before game 3, I mean, it's pretty obvious he's nowhere near health. And so you've got to go with your healthy guys, right? And so they get into that game. I see one of my bosses as I'm walking to the benches before the game, and I go, and he says, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, there was nothing that makes me think that Tampa has a chance after game 2, so this will probably be a great game." Like, the sport's so funny. Like, it's just when you think you've got it figured out. And I mean, Tampa looks slow and old and behind in game 2, and they look none of those things in game 3. And we probably all somewhere wanted Tampa to play a good game because I want this series to be good. I really do. As much as I want to go home. I mean, eventually
I would have been okay going home in 4.
Yeah, but it's like, these are the 2 best teams, and I want it to be a really good series. And now I don't see that Tampa's going to go away. Now, if Kucherov can't play, I mean, that's a whole different ballgame, but we'll see how that all goes. But they were thoroughly impressive right from the start. So they get the break on the disallowed goal, which I still think there's got to be a better way to do that review. Like, it took too long for Tampa to challenge.
Yeah, but minute 31.
Was it 131?
From the time the goal went in to the time he got their attention, it was a minute 31.
And they were about ready to let it go. And Derek Lalonde is their assistant coach. He's got the earpiece in. And right before they're dropping the puck, Lalonde just like sprung up on the bench. He must have got the word from the video coach that we got it. We got the view we need. The only way that can be quicker, though, is if the teams get access to that video that they need quicker. And it was explained to me last night after, and I thought, another thing, of course, I don't know, but that view that they needed, the blown up tight view, takes time to produce.
Right.
So that's what they're waiting for. And that became the definitive view, because you can all say, oh yeah, it's out. But if it's your decision and you screw up and it's 1-0, and then they go on the power play and score and it's 2-0, it might be over. So it was critical time. So they get the break they made the right call, but Tampa's video coach made the right call too. And then it's 1-0, and Vasilevsky makes a save on JT Compher, puck off the backboards. Man, I'm amazed at this guy's power and flexibility. And he makes a right pad save, or it's 2-0, like it should be. And then all of a sudden it's 2-1. Right? Like, it's there. Then they get the early goal from in the second from Nick Paul. And like, I don't know, it just seemed everything they needed to happen happened. They're big boys, Hedman, Kucherov, Stamkos, they all had 2 points. Palat scored again, and Vasilevsky makes 37 saves. Like,
Yeah.
it
Struds,
was a good win.
Struds, what stood out to you about, maybe what they did different or how they grabbed some of that speed game back? Because Tampa seemed faster last night.
Yeah, well, let me reintroduce myself after Ray Ferraro broke down the entire game in 5 minutes. Jason Strudwick, former NHL.
Oh, was I not supposed to do that?
It's
I didn't
great to be on
that.
Great to be on the podcast, everyone. Welcome again, Ray Ferraro. Let's just reintroduce the deck chairs here.
Hey, Jason, when did you get here?
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I could have had breakfast and come back. You break down all you can leave anything. Did you want to talk about the music?
You were kind of like those guys in the picture off your left shoulder there.
Walking into battle. That's what it's like. That's why I have them up there just for you this morning.
All right, okay. You two. Yeah, Holy smokes! All right, get along. There's no fighting on Got Your Back. Actually, that's bullshit. There's lots of fighting on Got Your Back. Okay, Struddy, go.
I'll be very cut to the chase here. Before this series, I really felt this would come down to goaltending. In the first 2 games, Tampa didn't get to the goalies. Last night, they got to the Avs goalies. They took the puck to the net, and Darcy Kemper wasn't up to the task. I didn't like Cirelli's goal. I didn't like Maroon's goal. You could say some from the slot, like even Stamkos's goal. He's inside the paint, top shelf. Now, he is by himself, and there were some issues of breakdown of coverage. And we've talked, I have been also talking about Makar, Toews, Manson, how good they're defending. When you make them make choices and you're crisscrossing like we saw on the whose goal is that?
Palat.
Was that Palat's goal? Crisscross. Yeah. D-man Makar was literally in the corner. He was in the corner. There was no one in front. Rantanen didn't have his guy in front. So when you attack the net when you attack the middle of the ice and you attack the net, you make defense and make choices. And now all of a sudden their goalies are rattled. So I didn't see that in the first 2 games. I thought they did a great job of that last night. That being said, I thought the Avs had their chances too. It wasn't like this was what we saw on the other side. So I thought this was Vasilevsky standing tall for his group and the Tampa finally getting at Kemper. And now you're going to game 3. I don't know who you're going to play. I'd probably go back with Kemper, I guess. But if Tampa gets to those guys, Tampa's shooters and skill are better than the goaltenders of the Avs.
Yeah. Do you want to point out to him that it's game 4 next, Ray, or do you want me to point out to him that it's game 4 next?
I was going to let it slide, but I was on fire.
No. After how aggressive he was with you, you were going to let that slide? This is like the kinder, gentler Ray Ferraro. I don't like this guy as much. You would have pounded on that before.
He knows he is wrong.
Well, I thought I was a little surprised where on the crisscross goal that Struddy, the defenseman, actually picked on the D. I thought he was going to bury Rantanen, the forward, because this is what I will say. D, generally speaking, hate the forwards. They think we don't do our job.
You don't.
We're never in position. No. And Rantanen, what Rantanen did on that goal, you could have put a much smaller green number 26 there. Me, I made that same back check 1,000 times. You're looking at the puck and you're like, maybe I should go there. And you take one stride and you're like, I'm telling you, it's like that. You take that stride and you're like, I'm in the wrong place. And then Palat made a great shot, and it's
The other thing you need to know about Struddy, though, Ray, is that although he's a part of the defenseman's union, he's a huge fan of Rantanen. Like a huge fan of Rantanen. Says he's basically his favorite player in the league. So there's your answer as to why, because I thought Rantanen was dicey in that situation too. We talked about the goaltending, and I think it was the first game where really the discrepancy between the goaltenders really reared its head last night. We expected that to be a storyline coming into the series. The Avs did a good job to protect their guy through the first couple of games. Injuries moving forward, though, potentially are going to be a concern here. So already without Braden Point playing in that last game, you got Nick Paul with the heroic performance, the bizarre injury. He goes down. We're trying to figure out what the heck happened there because he was in some pain, comes back and scores. And then later in the game, Nikita Kucherov. I did not like the play by Devon Toews. I felt like it was a little, when you get the top of a guy's pants like that, the leverage you have that you can make them uncomfortable and buckle them. Ray, you were down there at ice level. What's your take on what happened there with Toews and Kucherov? Because Cooper wasn't thrilled with it, though he didn't say much.
Yeah, well, John Cooper said after the game, if you're asking a question whether that was a dirty play, then you know the answer. That's that's pretty clear what he felt about it. So we didn't have it. We only had part of it, and then the camera, for whatever reason, wasn't able to capture all of it. So I'm standing at center ice. The puck goes down into the Tampa zone. Tampa's on the power play. Toews is in the middle of the ice, and he's kind of making the start of his pivot to go backwards. Kucherov's right behind him, and he comes up, and I'm watching him. There's nothing else to watch, and he comes up and he gives Toews a pretty good cross check on top of the pants where there's nothing. And there was some, happens all the time, but the puck came right there again. And so Toews was sour. And I've never heard Devon Toews be considered a dirty player or a chippy player, but he was sour, and he went right towards him. And that happened in 5 seconds. And so I saw last night, one of the Colorado guys fell down on the ice right in front of the bench. And as the Tampa guys going to the bench, he put his stick right under his helmet, the back of his helmet, like bing, and fired his, just guys' visors down. I'm like, there's all kinds of crap that goes on. Yeah. That one unfortunately ended in an injury, but I'm not condoning the Toews play, but I know why it happened. I saw it. I saw it. It was right there.
Yeah, I know, guys. I really feel bad for Kucherov as well. The shift prior, he ran Manson from behind. You got to, he doesn't deserve to get hit like that. Like, it's unbelievable how poor Kucherov, poor me. You know what? If you're going to run a D-man from behind, I have no problem. That is the way it is. This is the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Here's the D-man coming out.
Honestly, enough. I don't hear anyone saying, what about Josh Manson? What if Josh Manson had a concussion or got hit from behind? Like, I cannot stand him from behind. Kucherov did the shift before. And then all of a sudden, Toews goes back and gets him back. You know what? That's the way it goes. Don't run the guy from behind. So I have no problem at all. It's an eye for an eye. It was all through the series. And the series might suffer if Kucherov's out. But there was no need for Kucherov to run Manson in that situation. No need at all. 6-2. There was minutes left in the game. Enough already. So if you're going to play with fire, you're going to get burned sometimes. And that would happen. To me, that's all it was.
Now, maybe I forgot about the hit. Yeah. You're right. 100%, Jason. He went him. It was in the left corner from the left-hand glove side of the Colorado net. And he got Manson pretty good. And Manson was rattled.
Yeah.
And it's funny. My first thought was, it's a good thing it's not his dad.
Yeah, exactly. Different outcome, playoff game or not, different outcome about to happen. One of the things I liked, I was in the Tampa media availability after game 2, and they rolled out their main veterans, right? Hedman came out and Stamkos came out, and, some of their main leaders came out, and Steven Stamkos stood there, and he was just really honest. That had to be a stressful moment, being dominated like that, being down 2-0. And, he said some strong words of leadership, Ray. And that's all well and good and meaningful in the moment. But Stamkos came out and played his best game of the series. He was physical. He was fast. He was aggressive. Like, he backed up those words with a fantastic performance. And that right there is leadership. Leadership wasn't coming out and saying what he said necessarily. It was doing what he did here in game 3.
Yeah, lots of guys can make a speech and can sound great about it. You've got to be able to perform. I mean, long time ago, Mark Messier said we're going to win game 6 in New Jersey, and which would have been a great speech, except if they lost, it would have been nothing, except he went out and scored 3 goals and became a point of legend. Stamkos has been the captain 8 years now here. And John Cooper, honestly, I mean, it's almost daily, talks about the leadership group, how they set the tone, how they drag the team along, but it's because they're all really good players and they're so invested in the way that they do things in Tampa. He also says Stamkos is a little more methodical, a little less emotional, and I guess that comes with getting older, but he wasn't a raving lunatic in his game 2 presser. He was really matter of fact. We'll see what we're made of. We've got a better game. We will be better. And then they came out, and he, like the rest of the team, was terrific, but he was on it again last night. Like, he was on it. I mean, that is what, if you're going to get through a really, really deep ditch in a playoffs, your leaders have to be the ones leading you out of it. And they did last night. He was terrific. they can't win without him, but they also, the one guy, I hate to go back to Struddy's D-man, but I thought Victor Hedman was not very good in Colorado. And that's uncharacteristic for him. And he was really good last night.
Struds, what did you see out of Hedman? Like the difference between the first couple of games to game 3, because he definitely emerged in this series last night.
You know, it's I can't believe I want to talk about the power play, but I do think that at times when you're struggling as a skilled player, it's nice to get some chances on the power play. And we hadn't really seen him take a hard slap shot from the point like we did last night, and he rang the bell off the post, right? And I know it's not a goal, but like when you're a guy that, you know, how many times in his career we've seen him get it off the sideboard, come in the middle, and absolutely drop a bomb and score. And I think that is just a sign of confidence. And even the way he was handling the puck on the blue line, you know, he was catching on his backhand, just pulling it quick to his forehand. Like it just shows maybe he's just feeling it a little bit more, right? And you know, when you're a really good player, you got to find your confidence from somewhere. And for some guys, it's physicality. For others, it's making plays. I think for Hedman, showing that he's feeling it on the power play, I think it helps. So, you know, he's going to go back in there and feeling good about himself. And that group, they need him. Like they need him to be a difference maker, because there's a lot of guys on that other blue line that are difference makers for the Avs, and they need him to be, if not the best, at least one of the best D in this series.
Yeah. Other notables for me. Go ahead,
Ryan,
Ray.
I just want to say one thing on that. Does it not surprise you, Struddy, sometimes, like these guys that are great players, like how could they lose their confidence?
I know.
You're like, you guys are so good. And then you can see it. They're like the puck's like a grenade. And you're like, it amazes me all the time.
I know. Try my hands for a period and see how your confidence is. And then meanwhile, all these guys want to fight you because they know it's an easy fight. It's not a fun game to play. You know what I mean? Like, but
you were brilliant at it, buddy. you knew how to play your role like nobody else, man, and your teammates loved you. So I'm gonna have your back a little bit there. You're being too hard on yourself. Notables for me, I thought Cirelli was great, particularly early. Man, watching this guy play every night, you really see the value that he brings and why he's one of the best two-way forwards in the league. Listen, are the Tampa Bay Lightning firmly back in this thing the way it feels like they might be here? It felt so lopsided after 2, Ray, but like, is this like no one's lost a home game yet? Is this still a toss-up?
Part of me says it isn't a toss-up yet, just because how good Colorado was at home. And so if you say, well, everybody's winning their home games, somewhere Tampa has to go to Colorado and win. And even in the overtime game in game 1, I didn't think I was shocked that game went to overtime, to be honest with you. I felt Colorado had most of the play, even though it was a really good game. I'm like, Colorado, like John Cooper said, the best team deserved to win. And they did. It doesn't feel like a toss-up yet, but the goaltending makes me nervous if I'm Colorado. You can talk about how much confidence you have in your guys. Clearly, there's a discrepancy end to end in that series. And I would worry that was the breather or the catch of stride that Vasilevsky needed last night, because he is the best.
Yeah, Struds, what's your read going forward here?
Well, we had 2, on the paper blowouts, right? 7-0 and 6-2, game 2 and 3, guys. Sorry, just to make sure I had that right. And I thought the 7-0 drubbing by the Avs was a complete domination of Tampa. I thought Tampa dominated at the Avs goaltending, but I thought they had chances as well. So I don't see it being a lock that they're back in this thing. I think that the Avs, if they can get some goaltending and play kind of like they did last night, I don't think it's going to be very much a tougher and closer game for us. So 6-2, I'm not sure it really reflected the way the game actually was played out there, guys, at least from the skaters' point of view. And not to beat up on the goalies, because that's a little unfair, but I think when you get to this point, you got to look at it and talk about it. So if the goalies have the same type of performance and the players stay the same, I think the outcome's the same in game 4. But if they can get any kind of goal, any kind of saves, because like that's Cirelli and Maroon goals, that should not go in. Those are 2 you cannot.
Oh, man. Ugly. The missed poke check. You're kind of half pregnant there. Like, are you poke checking or not?
Yeah.
Just didn't commit to it either way and ends up going through.
Let me give you one stat that's I found yesterday. So teams that are up 2-0 in the Stanley Cup Finals are 47-5. You win the first 2 games, you're up 47-5. The last team to do it, to win 0-2, the 5th team was Boston in 2011. They lost games 1 and 2 in Vancouver, and then they pummeled Vancouver in game 3 in Boston, blew them out of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went on to win game 7 in Vancouver. So it's there, it's recent. It's not like, hey, in 1947, somebody did it. Who cares? They, like now I'm like, that made me think, I guess it can be done. It can be done.
And they are the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions, as Pierre LeBrun has been telling me for 2 days. Like, don't underestimate these guys. Don't underestimate these guys. They have a way. And they certainly showed that way last night. Good stuff, guys. That was the breakdown brought to you by Park Mazda, your dealer for life in Sherwood Park. Visit parkmazda.ca or go to the lot just off Y Road in Sherwood Park. So we don't cheer, Ray. Generally, when we're on the road, we just kind of think, well, the sooner we get home, the better. So, not cheering for Colorado, but last night I was thinking, hey, another game. If they win, we're home right away. They scored their second goal. It took 6 seconds, and I got a text. Darren Dreger, this feels like it's going 7.
Oh, he's such an ass, isn't he?
I thought maybe you might have got the same text.
No, I got one at the start of the third period from my 12-year-old. Not very happy either.
Yeah, exactly.
So
well,
I've been
we'll
home,
see.
guys. I've been home 4 days since this started on May the 2nd.
Jeez.
No, buddy.
That's crazy.
So I came home. I did get home. I will say this though. I got home for last Sunday. Sat down for, we're having a catch up. Everybody's having a coffee. We're in the kitchen. The 12-year-old goes up, takes a shower. Water starts pouring through the roof, which is really, I've been home an hour.
Oh, man.
Right.
And so I run up there and I'm like, Reese, shut the shower off. So he shuts it off. He's like, what's going on? And I look, there's water over his ankles in the shower. It didn't occur to him that the drain wasn't working. He's 12. He was having a great time, probably kicking the water all over the place. So I clean out, I look at the drain. I'm like, this probably should have been cleaned out about 2 years ago. But anyway, so as I left, they were cutting a hole in the ceiling to, I'm like,
oh boy,
glad I came home for this. This was awesome.
Yeah, the one thing you two share in common is like people can yell your name in the house when there's something wrong, and you can go and you can respond and you can get there. Neither of you have the foggiest clue what to do once you're there when the problems arise. Hey,
are you useless too, Struddy? Are you useless?
I make it look good. I make it look good.
So bad.
Take a look under the
hung
hood.
those pictures behind him. He wouldn't be able to hang those pictures behind him.
They do look good. They do look good. Depicting the life of Napoleon Bonaparte, right? Taller than both you guys.
Yeah. Thanks. Nice. All right, Struds. Struds, get out of here. Ray, you're going to stick around. No. He takes a short. He makes a short joke at both of us. He's allowed to do that because of his stature.
No, guys. Honestly, Ray, it was a real pleasure to work alongside one of the true legends of the game's wife, Cami Granata. Thank you. Say hi to Cami.
I appreciate your sincerity. Thanks.
Ray, stick around. We're going to grab a Got Your Back story from you in a couple of minutes here. Struddy, thanks, my friend. We'll talk to you next week. Plenty more to come here on Got Your Back, presented by DLR Vinyl Products.
Hey, Struddy, question for you. Have you ever tried putting in your own fence?
I sure have. Between digging the posts, mixing up cement and digging the holes, it's absolute killer.
It's brutal on the back. Well, listen, what if I told you you could put in a fence without having to dig a hole or mix any concrete?
I'd be much more likely to come over and help you out.
Yeah, well, you're not the first guy I would call, but thank you for that. Listen, my brother's company, DLR Vinyl Products, they've come up with a system where you can actually put high-quality vinyl fence in the ground without having to dig a hole, without having to mix any concrete. They can teach do-it-yourselfers how to do it, and they can also work with contractors who might be looking to start installing vinyl. It's super high quality product. The great thing about it is that it has fantastic longevity. You put it in, you don't have to worry about staining or sanding or anything like that. I've been lucky enough, Struddy. They put in multiple fences in my different yards and they've built me 3 decks. I have totally abused the fact that my family is in the fencing and decking business, but it's great product. Give Rob a call in Calgary or Rick a call here in Edmonton. This is a company my dad started. It's a family business. I'm super proud of it, and I'm very proud that they are our title sponsors. That's DLR Vinyl Products in Edmonton and Calgary.
Hey, it's Ryan Rishaug. While many are feeling the sting of inventory shortages, Park Mazda has you covered. They've got new Mazdas arriving every month, including the redesigned 22CX-5 in whatever color you're looking for. They've also got a huge selection of used vehicles with new arrivals every week and some of the most competitive interest rates on cars, trucks, SUVs, and more. Park Mazda, your dealer for life. In Sherwood Park, off Y Road. Schedule a test drive at parkmazda.ca.
All right, time now for Duthie and Dregs, brought to you by Belvan Construction, specializing in the design, planning, and construction of restaurants, office spaces, professional clinics, and retail spaces. Visit belvanconstruction.com. No James Duthie today, but we do have Darren Dreger on the road at the Mem Cup. How's the setup in that town for Memorial Cup, Dregs? It's a great event when it comes to town, I imagine, in that spot. It's got to be pretty good, man.
Yeah, you know what it is. By sheer numbers, you don't have the same sort of an atmosphere that you would have at a Stanley Cup final in terms of the number of bodies as part of the pregame parties and all of that. But that's not to suggest that the spirit isn't as high and as passionate because it is. I mean, you literally can't walk through the lobby of the hotel without people stopping you and saying, hey, as we record this, we're coming off of game one of the Memorial Cup where the St. John Sea Dogs, the host team, beat the Ontario champion Hamilton Bulldogs. And that building was buzzing in St. John last night.
Yeah.
And you're again, it's a team that's been off for 6-7 weeks. They lost in the first round of the playoffs. So, that's all part of it though, right? So, I mean, it's the primary reason aside from the obvious, which means that NHL people are here. If you're not invested in the Stanley Cup championship between Colorado and Tampa Bay, why would you be there? You wouldn't be there if you're one of the other 30 teams across the National Hockey League. So a lot of them are here, which is why I'm here. And
that's great, man.
Game one. Yeah.
And on TSN too, right? So it's a property that, obviously the other guys have had for a long time, but great to have it on our airwaves.
Yeah. And you know what, Ryan, you'd appreciate this, not to get too detailed or technical from a TV side, but just to show the importance and what this means to TSN. I was told last night, technically, we've got upwards of 25 sources that are available to the broadcast. And what that means for anybody listening is number of cameras, the number of inputs. So the technical side that is accessible from a production perspective, and that would rival, if not top, some of what our competitors do at the Stanley Cup level. Now, I'm not talking about the mega networks like ESPN or ABC. I mean, they would have probably 75 or 100, but that's the investment here. So we're hoping that junior hockey fans get the most out of the production value here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I noticed as busy as you were last night with the game, you still had time to chirp me via text message, bud. It was like perfect timing. You know what it's like. You've covered enough of these Stanley Cup finals where it's like, we don't cheer, but it's like, I wouldn't mind getting home on Thursday. And like, they were not even done cheering for the goal and you chirped me. It was perfect timing. I showed Pierre and he just shook his head and he said, asshole.
What did I say? This smells or feels like a 6 or a 7 game series. Is that basically?
Yeah, no. So Tampa scores. And you're like, this feels like it's going 7.
And look, I mean, it sounds like sour grapes, but you're right. I've been there many, many times. And for the hockey fan at home, they're like, listen to you two guys.
Oh, I know.
But
it's all
what
good.
we do is it's a job. We're fortunate to do what we do, but people forget that the downside is when you travel as much as you do or as I do, you miss some big family moments too.
Yeah.
Right? So when the opportunity is there for it potentially to be a shorter series,
you're like, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. You know what, though? No. Like, I think you'd feel the same if you were on this gig. The caliber of hockey that we're watching is pretty unreal, man. Like these two teams, Colorado, holy smokes, when they dial it up. And I'm so impressed that Tampa was able to counterpunch last night. Like Pierre kept telling me, man, don't underestimate Tampa. Don't underestimate Tampa. And then they came out last night and they Tampa Bay'd and got themselves right back in the series. I want to stay focused on the Memorial Cup here for a minute. I love it when the host team isn't necessarily the favorite, right? And the host team at that event, like they lost in the first round of the playoffs and they had to sit around for a whole bunch of time. And didn't they make a bunch of changes and stuff too?
Oh boy. I mean, they certainly did. They made roster changes, obviously prior to, near the trade deadline, but they fired their coach, Gordy Dwyer, after the season, ownership
before the Mem Cup.
Before the Memorial Cup, and management clearly felt like their shortfalls and shortcomings in the playoffs had largely to do with coaching. I think that's a bit unfair, if not unreasonable. But then they bring in a wily old veteran like Gardner McDougall from the University of New Brunswick. This guy is a decorated coach, knows what he's doing. And I'm not going to lie, Ryan. I'm somewhat biased to the Ontario League because that's the league that I see most often. And my son Mason has a couple of good buddies on the Hamilton Bulldogs team. So I just paid closer attention, and I thought, man, Hamilton had to be a favorite team along with the Edmonton Oil Kings coming into this. And the way that the Sea Dogs took over that first period against Hamilton was impressive. Hard on the forecheck, real quick transition. Their goaltender made 2 or 3 just ridiculous saves. So that's great though, because you don't want the host team to get completely, bowled over in the Memorial.
Yeah, you want them to be in it. It makes for great environment. You want them to be in it. The game's to be meaningful for them to, at worst, be able to have a real good chance to play a spoiler, but at best, even be right in the mix. And I watched, when I was in midget AAA, the Kamloops Blazers were trying to win their second Memorial Cup. And I had some buddies on that team. And they were the host team, trying to win that Mem Cup. And that is some of the most intense atmosphere I've ever been in a building, was a host team competing at a Memorial Cup. It's great. This is an Edmonton-based podcast, so we got to talk about the Oil Kings. How much scuttlebutt is there about the strength of the group that the Edmonton's bringing in there this year? And are they sort of viewed as the standard? And we see all the guys that have been drafted, all the guys that are part of Team Canada, the guys, draft eligibles. Feels like they're pretty stacked and considered a favorite.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it looks. I think that most would have expected that Edmonton and Hamilton would be considered the 1-2 punch. Coming in here. Well, we have to rethink that based on what we saw in the opener.
Stevie Stalos's boys lost, Yeah.
And not to make excuses for anyone, because all teams have injuries and they're banged up, but Hamilton's feeling it in a big way. And there were a couple of players that didn't play last night that you're going to see when they play again on Thursday. But I can tell you, Ryan, the buzz, the reason I'm here is because it's an opportunity again to rub shoulders with some of the hockey people from around the National Hockey League here. Last night it was Gerard Gallant of the New York Rangers, who's an absolute rock star in this town.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, it was awesome.
He's not buying himself any drinks, man.
Nah, I mean, and he's such a good guy, as you know. I mean, he walks down the hall and people are just all over him. Like, he is hockey royalty here. But, he's looking forward to seeing the Oil Kings play. I'm sure the Montreal Canadiens have an entourage here and watching their drafted players. People believe that Goulet is just flat out ready for the National Hockey League. No different than Mason McTavish, who's an Anaheim pick, who played last night for the Hamilton Bulldogs. So, you have high expectations of what those players can be at the NHL level. But this is one of the few opportunities, along with the World Junior Championship, where you can see them peer versus peer, right? And you can measure it that way. So I know I'm looking forward to seeing the Oil Kings tonight. Yeah. I would have to believe they're the favorite team at this stage. Yeah,
a little banged up, though. No Dylan Gunther. That's going to hurt their chances of winning this thing. He's an important player for them. So look forward to the games and your coverage, Dregs. Want to get to some of the coaching situations happening in the NHL. We might as well start with Jay Woodcroft and the Edmonton Oilers, understanding that by the time this podcast gets to market, it might be dated because maybe the announcement comes. There's no doubt in my mind that this was going to happen. It's maybe taken a little bit longer than I thought. Yeah. And I wonder if, the marketplace is a little bit different, or if it took a little bit to weed through and figure out what the number was, or what's taking this so long? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, all of the above. I think you've captured it. There have been recent coaching signings. I look at Marty St. Louis with the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, that felt like a slam dunk. based on the environment that he was brought into, the initial success that he had, the Hall of Fame career, all of that. But as a first year NHL coach with no coaching experience, for Marty to get the contract that he got, somewhere around $3 million is what I believe, and that could be Canadian dollars. I don't know. Why wouldn't that have influence on what Jay Woodcroft is willing to command, right? Woodcroft has more experience, obviously, on the coaching front, a great track record of success, and had a real good run with the Edmonton Oilers in helping them to the Western Conference Final. So there had to be a negotiation. It wasn't simply going to be Kenny Holland and Bob Nicholson sliding a contract in an envelope to Jay and say, "Here it is, take it." There had to be a bit of a back and forth. I was told on the weekend that they expected an announcement on Monday. That didn't happen. I was told by a source real close to the situation on Monday that it was very, very close. It's just a timing thing for whatever reason. So you're right. I mean, we could be talking about this and sounding like dum-dums because the Oilers have announced it. I hate the word imminent in our business.
Yeah.
But this one feels imminent.
I'll do one of those super low quality over the phone cut-ins on the podcast if that happens, where this little "Hey everybody, it's Ryan. Just checking in from we got breaking news now." Yeah, I feel like this probably gets done, if not by the end of the day, and in the next couple of days, anyways.
And here is that cut-in for real, folks. Yes, just the law of averages, of course. Just a couple hours after the podcast went to market. Word breaking. I think at Real Kipper, Nick Kiprios, our good friend, was the first one to report it. 3-year deal for Jay Woodcroft to remain on as head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. That removes the interim tag. And this is well-deserved. I don't think that the playoff performance mattered. I thought he proved enough during the regular season that he was the right guy for the job. And then they went 3 rounds deep into the postseason, making it a complete no-brainer. So Woodcroft has a new contract, his first in the NHL to be a head coach for 3 years with the Oilers. Younger coach, pretty forward-thinking, I would say. The thing about Jay Woodcroft is, he'll be looking in the mirror as to what happened in that Colorado series. He's a guy that is always hungry to get better, keeps tons and tons of notes on himself, his competition, fellow coaches. He's going to turn over every single stone he has to figure out how he can be better and do a better job of coaching this Oiler team next year, constantly trying to learn. And I think that's one of the benefits of having a younger coach, that he's not where he wants to be yet, and continuing to try and climb the hill. And not one of the benefits of Jay Woodcroft, that's for sure. So congratulations to him. Has a young family. I'm sure it's an exciting day for all of them as well. So Jay Woodcroft, 3-year deal, will remain on as head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. And now back to your regularly scheduled Got Your Back programming.
I thought they should have signed him before the playoffs, man. Probably pissed them off by saying this, but to me, what they did in the playoffs, they would have saved it. First of all, it would have saved them some money. Yeah. And it would have given them the confidence. Just, you walk into your first playoffs as a head coaching, and with Dave Manson, a coaching duo, and you just coach free because you got the deal in your pocket and you're coaching free. Yeah. And there were some veteran players. I think about Darnell Nurse, the way he was used. I just can't help but think that the respect you have for Darnell Nurse, you don't want to move him out of that position on the top pairing. But, I don't know. I feel like maybe they would have coached a little more free in those moments and, could have got it done ahead of time. But at the same time, you probably want to have a chance to chat with the Connor McDavids and Leon Draisaitl's and those guys and have a real good debrief before you make your fulsome decision. And it's probably not the right time as playoffs are starting.
I agree with that. And look, this puts Kenny under a time crunch though, a little bit, right? He would have, I'm sure, preferred to have this done days ago because he's got other matters to attend to. And so does Jay. Jay's got to look at his coaching staff. Who's coming back, who isn't coming back. Are they all coming back? Manson, of course.
Is Gulletson still signed?
No, he's not. His
not
contract,
signed. Okay.
He's not. So his contract, needs to be looked at. Now, Glenn Gulletson has been around the game a long time as a head coach and as an assistant coach. I guarantee you he's got other coaching opportunities. But, did Jay Woodcroft like the fit with Glenn Gulletson as an example in a short period of time that they coached together? So it'll go from Jay Woodcroft being announced. The interim label's gone. Here's his extension to Jay Woodcroft and Kenny Holland, now buckling down on, whether or not they're bringing Gulletson back or what they do with the assistant coaches.
Yeah. Mike Smith, Duncan Keith, waiting on news, kind of what their futures will hold. My gut on Mike Smith is that he's not going to be back. I don't know how healthy he finished the year.
Yeah.
My gut tells me that he's not going to come back. He'll end up on LTIR or something like that. I'm not as certain on Duncan Keith. Do you have a sense on Duncan Keith, which direction it might go in?
No, I don't. And I'm with you. My sense is, and look, Mike Smith hasn't made that decision yet, obviously. How many kids does he have? 4? I think he has 4.
Yeah, he's got 4 boys, I think.
I think there's a girl in there. But
is there a girl in there? My apologies to the Smith family.
In Kelowna.
No, for getting it wrong, not for having a daughter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Let's clarify. But his family's busy, and if Mike Smith feels like he put it all out there and left nothing, then a lot of careers end that way. Jason Spezza chased it until he couldn't chase anymore, right? There's no shame in the career of Mike Smith. So I'm with you. I think he's probably leaning towards not playing. We'll see. Duncan Keith, according to my sources, they don't know. One thing I will say about Duncan, Ryan, and you can appreciate this, he does not want to be that player that is pushed out of the game because he just can't play anymore. And he is as critical of his own play as any member of the media, anyone in Edmonton or outside Edmonton. He knows that his game is diminished. So I think that that's what he's wrestling with. Can he still be impactful and effective? And if self-assessment tells him he can be, then I think he'll give it another year. But if his determination is that his game deteriorated over the course of the season, and he's just not happy with that, then I can also see him hanging it up and saying, I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, man. He's been around the game a long time. He's got one of the great legacies in the game already, and he's still sitting here working on it, playing. Third round he goes to with the Edmonton Oilers this year, and I thought he played a fairly meaningful role through a lot of it. Great stuff, Dregs. Appreciate it, man. Enjoy the rest of the Memorial Cup, and we'll maybe check in next week. Well,
we probably will. Look, depends on how things go, but there's a strong chance that I'll dive back into that series for the clinching game in Game 7. So we'll see you then.
I'm emailing my producer, Mike Lane, right now to tell him I want no part of Darren Dreger on this Stanley Cup.
Imagine how fresh I'll be, though, after all the seafood.
Oh, yeah. You'll come in feeling all happy.
Oh, yeah.
We're all just exhausted.
Yeah. The energy level will be through the roof when I get there.
You know what happened to me last night while we were watching the game? This tells you, I don't know, like I'm not drinking enough water. I don't know what's going on. I got a hamstring cramp last night, right in the middle of the game. You had a hamstring cramp? It is horrendous. So we're sitting there, and all of a sudden I just sort of sat up and pulled my leg back, and I went, oh no. And immediately you just straighten it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you panic and straighten it. So now I'm leaned back from the table like this going, oh no. And you feel it coming on. Well, there's a row of scouts behind us that are looking at me like, what the hell? I had to sit there with my legs straight out, and I was just in a panic. It hurt so bad. I'm limping around this morning. It was unbelievable how bad that happened. I don't know if I'm getting older. This has happened to older folks, Dregs. You would know.
That's real life, and it does happen as you get older. But I'm going to share, and I shouldn't be, because you'll use this as a soundbite. But a ridiculous.
This is a promo.
Okay, so I think I told you Sunday night I arrive in St. John, and we have a bit of a crew meal. We go out for seafood, wonderful restaurant here. And I started with the fresh oysters, and then I went to this hodgepodge thing, which was a collection of seafood and potato, peas. It was fantastic. Get back to my room, and I'm literally about to dive into a food coma because I've stuffed myself to the gills. I woke up about 7 times from, I don't know if it was a dream or a nightmare, but in this dream/nightmare, I was harvesting oysters, but they were in my carpet, my room. So I'm like digging holes in my carpet to pull the oysters out of my carpet. And I had that dream. Like, how ridiculous is that? But I'm like, I mean, obviously it's because I just had this feast of seafood, but And every time I'd wake
What does
up,
that mean?
I don't know. I gotta speak to somebody about it. That's why I'm telling you this story, because you'll send it out there and somebody will explain that, okay, I need some help, which is pretty obvious. But yeah, so I had that reoccurring dream about 7 times on Sunday night, picking oysters under my carpet in my hotel room. Yeah, it scared the crap.
Okay, I just did a quick search on because I'm fascinated by dream stuff. I did a quick search on digging in dreams. It suggests that you know where it is and need only discover the roots to bring it back to life. Digging can suggest the need to remove something completely by destroying its roots.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just thought I ate too many oysters.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. Yeah, that's the difference between you and me. I dig a little deeper. You're a little more basic and simple with the explanations. All right, that was Dregs, brought to you by Belvan Construction, specializing in the design, planning, and construction of restaurants, office spaces, professional clinics, and retail spaces. Visit belvanconstruction.com. Enjoy the Mem Cup and the seafood. Have a great time, and look forward to more chirps via text, buddy.
All right. Look forward to it. They're coming. You know that.
That's a guarantee. See you, pal.
If you're a business owner looking for a general contractor to build or renovate your business, no matter how big or small, Belvan Construction should be your first call. Specializing in the design, planning, and construction of restaurants, office spaces, professional clinics, and retail spaces, Belvan can assist you from start to finish. Learn more by going to belvanconstruction.com.
Folks, golf season is just around the corner, and I don't know about you, but I am some kind of fired up over it. It's the perfect time to get yourself fitted for new clubs or some great new apparel. Well, DeBoers has you covered for all of it. Their facility is first class with amazing TrackMan technology in their simulators and top-of-the-field fitting specialists. You can order now for spring delivery, and they've also got a bunch of new 22 apparel for you to go check out. It's a fantastic group down there at DeBoers. The shop has a great positive feel. I highly recommend you check them out on the corner of 53rd Street and 99th Avenue. DeBoers, helping you play better golf since 1999. Average Joe's Sports Bar in Sherwood Park has proudly served the community and supported minor sports in the area for almost 20 years. It's a great gathering place for sports fans. Average Joe's has massive big screen TVs, comfortable seating, and a friendly staff waiting to make your experience anything but average. Come check it out on Baseline Road, right next to Home Depot, or make a reservation by calling 780-417-1113. That's Average Joe's on Baseline Road in Sherwood Park.
All right, time now for Who's Got Your Back, brought to you by DeBoers Golf Shop and Fitting Center, helping you play better golf, your local golf shop for the last 23 years. As we're rejoined by Ray Ferraro. Ray, next time you're in Edmonton, I'm dragging you down to DeBoers, buddy, because I know what a golf fan you are. You would love this place. That feeling you get when you walk into a golf shop that is like big and well stocked and awesome. Just that feeling of like giddy excitement you get, like, ooh, I'm getting stuff today.
There's nothing you don't need in there. Even though you don't need any of it, you need it all.
You need all of it.
I love to get. Oh, by the way, you may have heard we'll be there for 3 weeks in August. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, we're gonna play. We'll play some rounds. Hey, we'll get out. I'll take you out to Belvedere. I play out at Bellevue. We'll get some rounds in. You and James and
Beautiful.
I, and we'll head down to DeBoers and see what you guys need. They can hook you guys up.
I would love to be there. Awesome.
Good stuff. So, listen, we do some storytelling on this podcast. We love getting a story from people about a time in their life where somebody came through for them. Can be big, small, heavy, light, whatever you want it to be, Ray. And when I put that idea to you, who had Ray Ferraro's back? Is there something that pops into your mind right away?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I'm going to be 58, and I had a incredibly satisfying and blessed career in the NHL, and then I stumble into this, and this has been 20 years. I mean, nobody gets anything done without help from somebody else, even if it takes you a long time to realize it. Like you there's a certain portion, I think, of your life, you think it's all my hard work and it's me, I'm doing this. And then you realize, somebody helped me along the way. Somebody stood up for me. Somebody gave me an opportunity. And so when we talked about doing this, I thought of a couple that really, really stood out for me. There was a guy at ESPN, Barry Sachs, who was the head of, they call us on-air guys, talent, but there was the head of talent at ESPN too. I was playing with the Kings. I had just been traded there, and he was a big Ranger fan. He had seen me do a bunch of interviews through my years with the Islanders, and called my agent, said, "Hey, I think Ray'd be really good on TV. I'd like to give him a try." I'd never done it before. Like, why did he reach out? Like, why did he do that?
Yeah.
Right. Like, and it turned into something great that has been an amazing second career for me. But when I get right down to it, nobody, Ryan, was ever there more for me than my dad. And maybe
Right.
I wish everybody had a relationship with their dad like I did. Like, it bugs me when I hear somebody say, "Yeah, my old man." I'm like, that just bothers me so much because of what my dad meant to me. So of 100 stories I could give you, I'm 17 years old and I go to Penticton in the BC Junior League, because even though I'd had really great success in Junior B, I was scared to leave home. I was pretty well looked after. We didn't have a lot of money, but I was well looked after. Mom and dad had, we had a great place to grow up. So I go to Penticton because I'm scared of the Western League, because in the 1980s, the Western League was not known for its skill.
No, it's where you get hurt.
Yeah, you went there and there were some rather large humans wandering around. So I want to go to Penticton because I want to get a scholarship and go to the US to play college hockey. That was my goal. So I get a lot of opportunities because I had a good year in Penticton, and I sign a letter of intent to go to Northern Michigan University. There were a couple of guys from around the trail area that were already there. Bruno Campesi was a goaltender that I knew. Steve Bozak, who played in the NHL in LA and Calgary, he was there. So I wanted to go there, sign my letter of intent. But I don't know anything about the NHL. I get drafted. Ryan, I didn't know it was my draft year. I thought my draft year was the next year. So I start getting this paperwork about, the Rangers sent like a personality test. And I'm like, I wonder why they're sending this to me. So I asked my coach, he's like, "Yeah, you're eligible for the draft." I had no idea. So I get drafted in the 5th round by Hartford. So now, of course, in my Trail BC knowledge of the world, I'm going to be an NHL player. I'm a 5th round pick. I weigh 153 pounds, but I'm like, I think I can play in the NHL. And I don't need to go to college if I have a chance because I'm now drafted. But it's July, it's now start of August, and I get a call from the Portland Winterhawks, and they've traded for my rights. They're hosting the Memorial Cup. They're hosting the first year. The host team is going to be in the Memorial Cup. And so I go, well, I'm already drafted. I'm going to play in the Memorial Cup. I want to go to Portland. So my dad and I talked about it, and he's like, "If this is what you want to do, I promised them I would go back to college," which of course I've come short on. And, but I said, "Okay, I'll do that. I want to go to the Western League." So I come home one day, I got to call the coach in Northern Michigan and tell him that I'm not coming. So I call him. "Yeah, it's Ray. Hey, how you doing? Yeah. Hey, coach, I've decided I'm not coming to school." And it's mid-August. I have no idea that once those scholarships are committed, all the other players are signing everywhere else.
Yeah. Puts them in a tough spot a little bit, for sure.
So I'm their number one recruit, as it turns out. I tell them like probably the 20th of August, if my recollection's right, I'm not coming. he blasts me on the phone like I have never been blasted before, certainly at that time. You're flushing your career down the toilet. What am I going to do with this effing scholarship? He was frustrated. He was angry. And I mean, I don't know. Like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm just not coming. So the call ends. I'm home by myself. I go up to my room and like, I'm in tears. Like I am in tears. Now I think I have flushed my career down the toilet. What am I doing? All these doubts are coming in. Dad comes home from work, and I'm telling you, Ryan, there's certain things you don't forget. And he comes home. Dad was a hard worker, owned a concrete business, always outside, like the hard part of the work. Comes home, he's dirty. The last thing he wants to do is, or the first thing he wants to do is just get in the shower. So I come downstairs, I see him, we're in our little kitchen, and I said, hey, Dad, I called Coach and told him I wasn't coming. And he sees my eyes are all red. He's like, well, what happened? And so I tell him, and he's like, give me his number. And I'm like, so I give him the number, and he says, go upstairs. And so he wanted to talk. And my dad was the most uninvolved parent, always in the background. I knew I had his support always. I'm actually starting to tear up thinking about him a little bit.
Buddy.
And
I'm right there with you.
Like he was just such an amazing man. And I heard him on the phone talking to that coach, and not in any other way, but in supporting me and saying, you do not talk to him like that ever again. That is not the way to talk to a 17-year-old. And he just, I understand the coach was frustrated. I mean, I dropped a bomb on his foot, and like his whole, and so, yeah, you can look back and say, hey, he should have handled it differently, but it was just emotion. My dad took that number, and he made sure that coach knew that he had my back. And I felt like my decisions were validated by Dad, because I really only wanted a couple of things. I wanted everybody in our family to do well. I wanted Mom and Dad to be proud of me. And I wanted to do the best that I could. I wanted to be in the NHL. I thought I was making the right decision. As it turns out, it was. But my dad in that moment took 2 seconds to get that number from me and get on the phone.
He just knew he had to do it, eh?
He's like that. He could have let it go. I mean, it was finished, right? It was finished because, and he wasn't, I mean, there wasn't a great argument. I mean, coach had settled down by this time, but Dad was making sure that he knew that he had my back and he supported my decision.
That's an amazing story, man. That's an amazing story. Hockey dads are, I mean, you and I share this. Like, we had great relationships with our dads. You know, I lost my dad way, way, way too early. So when people tell me stories about their dads, I get chills. It kind of, it takes me back to that place. My dad was very similar that way. So was he a guy, like, was he a man of few words? Was that out of character for him to make a phone call like that? And is that part of why it was maybe a little jarring for you?
Dad was not a man of few words. Like, if you wanted to talk about any subject, he was in. It didn't matter. He was in. He liked the interaction with people. After Dad passed, I can't tell you how many people I heard from. Hey, I knew your dad from the coffee shop. I knew your dad from the rink. I knew your dad from the ballpark. And he just knew all these people, but he was not going to get involved in my hockey. Ever. He just didn't. He managed our hockey team basically because he was at all the games anyway. And as much as he managed the team, I think Mom did all the managing. Like, she was sending out all the notices to the parents, hey, we got to meet here and all that stuff. But Dad was just always there. And for him to make that call was completely odd for me to hear. Like, he was just such a friendly, talkative person that the people he met would view him as a friend. And so Les Jackson was a general manager in Brandon, one of the great people to be around the game of hockey. Les traded for me from Portland the next year, and I go to Brandon. Dad comes out for a game. Next thing I know, Dad's driving from Brandon to Regina with Les, with the GM. And Les says to me, he's like, "Oh, your dad, great company. We talked the whole way." They didn't talk about me. Not a chance.
He'd know not
a chance.
To.
Yeah. They talked about whatever, family and business and hockey and whatever. So the end of that story is a couple of years later, I'm playing in Hartford. Actually, a year and a half later, I'm playing in Hartford, and there's a Christmas tournament for college teams. 4 college teams are there.
Yeah.
And I run into Coach Comley, and I'm coming out of the locker room. He's walking the other way. And we stop, and he's like, "I guess you were right. I was wrong." He's like, "I was wrong.
Wow.
Good for you."
Wow.
And so it made me feel good that he took it all in and said, "You know what? You made the right decision." And so I never harbored any ill will. I was like, man, the guy was mad. He was angry. He was emotional. I would have been the same way. But for him to stop, like, he could have walked by. There was enough of a hallway, that you could have gone by.
Could have looked away. Yeah.
Yeah. And he just didn't. And I just
That's
thought
good of him.
It was really good of
him to do.
And I think he knew pretty quickly that my decision was final. And that was because Dad made that very clear.
Yeah. Well, you ended up doing okay, right? I love that story, man. Here we are just a few days past Father's Day. And I know on that day, we were probably both thinking about our dads a lot. So that's a perfect story on our first podcast here post Father's Day. Thanks for sharing that, my man. So you're a soccer dad, hockey dad too?
Yeah, Landon.
Landon's
Landon's still playing. The younger guys.
Landon's still playing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the younger
Landon's
guys
in Germany.
Soccer though, right?
Let me tell you this though. He's 30 years old, and I watched the games with the same energy and nervousness that I did when he was 12.
Yeah. No, it's fun, man. It's fun.
Soccer's different though. Like, I don't even really know what I'm watching, and one of the reasons I'm, at the end of this series, I'm checking the days is Riley, our 15-year-old, is plays in the Whitecaps Academy, and he's going to a MLS tournament in Dallas, and so I'm trying to get there as quick as I can. And I'll give you one quick story of my soccer knowledge. He's about 11 or 12, and soccer parents don't yell during the game. You just stand there. And so I'm down in the offensive end because he's a forward. And so somewhere up top, that's a soccer term, up top. And I'm trying, and they're trying to defend a lead. And the ball's in the corner right in front of me. And Riley's like, I don't know, 15 yards from me. I'm like, "Riley, hunt it." He doesn't even look at me. He doesn't acknowledge me, nothing. The game goes on. They end up winning. So in the car on the way home, we're driving there, and he goes, "Hey, Dad, when you yelled at me to hunt the ball?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, if I run at that guy and I don't get there and he passes it into the middle, now the ball goes on the other side of the field and goes up the field. My job's to keep it in the corner." And I said, "You know what I'm going to do, Riley? I'm going to shut up and watch the games from now on." How's that?
Quietly, like the rest of the parents. Yeah, know your role, right? You were a hell of a hockey player, man. Don't be giving soccer advice to anybody.
No, I couldn't have been more wrong with it. He didn't even acknowledge me, though. I loved it. It was so good.
That's great. Well, listen, buddy, I'm so glad that we got a chance to finally have you on the podcast, man. And you've been so supportive of this project of mine from the start. You gave me some advice before, and I really appreciate it. And this was awesome, man. I love the fact you came on, told the story you did, and spent some time with us. I love the podcast you and Dregs do, as much as it begrudges me to give that man any credit. You guys do a hell of a podcast, and it's one of the industry standards. So thanks, man. I really appreciate this. This was great.
Thanks for the kind words. Thanks for having me on. I love the idea, Ryan, because we all are aware that there's enough pissing and moaning all over the place. Everybody's got an idea about what everybody else is doing wrong.
Yeah.
And to have some positivity come in your orbit is really a cool thing. And so I love it. I think it's an amazing idea. When you told me, I remember where I was. I was driving because I was heading to an appointment, and you said, "Hey, you got a few minutes?" You told me about the idea, and right away I thought, like, this is a great idea. It really is.
Thanks, man. That means a lot to me. And these are just the conversations we want to have, right? There's lots of negativity if you want to find it, but I love hearing stories like you told me today. Thanks, buddy. I'll see you, I guess, in a few hours down at the rink. Although it's an off day, something tells me I might not see you at the rink.
See you tomorrow.
Awesome. The fantastic, fabulous Ray Ferraro from ESPN and TSN. Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, that'll wrap up today's podcast. A huge thanks, as always, to our fantastic sponsors. Without them, we couldn't make this whole thing happen. My brothers at DLR Vinyl Products, Park Mazda, Belvan Construction, DeBoer's Golf Shop, and of course, Average Joe's Sports Bar in Sherwood Park. It's a fantastic place to stop for a bite, a drink, gathering place with you and your friends, some golf, watch some hockey, go watch the Stanley Cup final. Average Joe's is right next to Baseline, or right next to Home Depot on Baseline Road in Sherwood Park. Thanks so much for your downloads and your subscriptions, folks. Probably have another podcast coming, I would say, in the next 4 or 5 days. We'll see how this series goes. If the series continues, we too shall continue. So make sure you download and subscribe so it drops right into your phone. Appreciate you listening. We'll talk soon. Game 4 set to go tomorrow night. Should be tons of fun. The Lightning are back in this thing. For how long? We shall see. Cheers, everyone.